Yes, please.
Thank you. Well, for myself, all of my rehabilitation and my reintegration back into society as a survivor of sex trafficking into prostitution from a very young age has come through education. Um, it's a vocational calling for myself. So it was a long, arduous journey to reclaim my sense of self. It wasn't easy. I wasn't able to read and write properly. I'd been to 13 different schools. I came from a very adverse background, as most women do who've been trafficked, sex trafficked. So I was not in a very good place at all. I had literally everything that we were talking about on the slides, I experienced. So I educated myself from GCSEs to A levels to a foundation degree to a master's and now to my doctorate. Well, my area of speciality is victim blame, where I look at sexual violence that's perpetrated against prostituted women. And I look at the nuances within our criminal justice system of sex trafficking victims and how police and what we're talking about was structural stigmatization, and that they largely do not believe women's claims of rape that come through the judicial system. So I advocate tirelessly to raise awareness of the struggles that myself had. And then I went and volunteered for a very large time with very vulnerable people, and this led to where I am now. But I still feel a lot of those things that we talk about today. I still feel that the years and years of living in the margins, of being a very vulnerable person, I still sometimes feel that that still lives and resides within me. But my faith is very important, but everything is to my vocational calling to educate myself out of this place so that I have a voice. I hope that makes sense.
Wow, Petrina, you're very strong. You're very strong. Yeah. Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so we are moving towards our next question. Okay, so one of the comments that Miss Saliha has done is that it isn't easy for us to change ourselves instead of changing people's mind, and it's a reality we can't change people's perspectives. So changing us is more helpful, right?
So, okay, could you just break that down again for me? I'm trying to understand the question. So,
If
it's
you can,
the
if you can see the
question.
chat box, let me copy and paste for you.
Actually, okay, that's absolutely right. 100%, Liha, okay, correct. That's exactly it. Yes, we can't do anything about how other people's perceptions are of us. When we go into trying to control another person's thoughts, feelings, and we internalize their beliefs and how they think towards us, we create a lot of powerlessness, self-helplessness. But we can control how we think and how we feel. And we can empower ourselves to believe that change is possible. And change is completely possible. The limitations we have are the ones that we put on ourselves, because all of this social self and structural stigma we internalize, and when we internalize it, we can't differentiate what is real and what is not real. So what happens is that we buy into these self-limited beliefs and we take on others' perceptions, but we don't have to do that. There is always I chose to break free from that because I believe that my life was more than sexual servitude, and I was not prepared to accept that due to my environment that I was born into, that I had no choice. I didn't choose this. This cannot be my destiny. So I worked tirelessly. And when I worked within the criminal justice system, I worked with offenders, and I looked at people, sexual offenders particularly, of how I could rehabilitate and reintegrate people back into our society. But in that, I found actually change is so possible when you have somebody that believes in you. Surround yourselves with the right people. Everything is about empowering, and the support is there if you look for it. It really is. And I'm happy to help in any way with any support that anybody needs or feels they need.
Thank you, Ms. Petrina. We got one more question from Ghazal. Um, she is asking what strategies to prevent us from emotional distress by adaptability to environment we don't naturally like for us. So, what are the ways to deal?
What strategies to prevent us from? That's a really good question. And not one actually that I could answer, because when you say emotional distress by adaptability to an environment we don't naturally like, um, that's a difficult question. I can answer that from my own perspective. I couldn't, because I wouldn't, you know, it's so easy to adapt to an environment that you don't like and causes emotional distress. Um, And I think the only way I can draw upon of giving any solace to the question is to draw upon my own lived experience, not outside of not the research, my own lived experience. And how the strategies that I did was I became, as I said, I had 6 children, so I had a big family. I just structured my time really well. I studied, I did everything I could do within my control to create a better environment. I would need to know exactly what the environment is that is causing the emotional distress. So, as much as I would love to answer that, that's a very individual question that I would need to talk more and explore and talk to you about. I couldn't give a strategy without understanding what the emotional distress is, and what it is you're trying to adapt to, and the environment that you're in. I don't know if that poses a risk, or whether that, I don't know. I wouldn't want to give you information that may mislead you. So I don't think I can answer that. I hope that makes sense.
It could be two ways, Petrina, right? It could be either family or it could be either professional environment.
Yeah, okay.
I think
And is it
I think if it's two ways, either it's family or professional environment, how we can cope up with this environment, how to
how
deal
can
with
you
that.
cope?
Professional.
Oh
It's
yeah,
the
that's for
professional.
professional.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, professional, we have to, for me, ethically, you have to adhere to a strong ethical code of conduct. You know, you, you can only control your own inner space. If you're professionally working somewhere that you're not particularly feel that you're heard or validated, or your work is not recognized, then very often the best thing to do is just to carry on. And if you can speak to somebody on a hierarchy, then yes, share. But if not, you have a choice. You can leave, or you just tirelessly keep going and you work, and you just keep yourself strong ethically. And eventually, if it passes, you move through it, you transition through it. And if it doesn't, then you have choices, and I guess you have options. There must be some sort of person that you can speak to. The strategies that I use, though, are I tend to not involve myself with, I just adhere to my work. I create very strong work ethic, deadlines, work commitments. I don't get myself involved in anything that could potentially create I don't know if there's people gossiping around me, or maybe they're not adhering to their work, and maybe it's the environment isn't as productive as maybe you would like it to be, or there's not enough cohesion within the team. Then, I would speak to somebody who's in a hierarchy, or I would look at what you can control, or I'd look at what you can. So, yeah. I hope that helps. I just tend to yeah.
Thank you,
But
Petrina.
But strategies are very individual as well. So, for example, I tend to, I was asked to write about this in LinkedIn about what my strategies are. So, my strategies, but not in a work and place environment, in a professional environment, is that I get up very early. I tend to do, I'm a Christian, so I tend to pray. I tend to have a morning where I have a very cold shower, cold therapy. I go for a walk and I set my intentions for the day. And I try to create the most harmonious environment that I can. And I try to start my day well. And that makes my husband is a breathing, he works a lot of breath work. I do a lot of breath work to calm my emotions, calm my anxiety. And that really helps me. That is definitely a strategies that I do to help with structuring a routine that's very early for me because I have a very big family and I work, but that time for myself where I can nurture and look after my own sense of well-being.
Thank you, Petrina. Thank you so much. I've just shared your LinkedIn profile one more time so that they can go through your post and they can follow you um,
That's very kind.
and your
Thank you.
thoughts. That's great. So, Petrina, in the end, we have both male and female joined you in the session. What piece of advice would you like to give us all to deal with this?
A really good question. I would say, personal stories and lived experiences are powerful tools for breaking down stigma. So when we share our journey, our struggles, or even our triumphs, it humanizes the experience. It makes us relatable. It makes us relatable to one another, and it makes us relatable to whoever is in the presence of our in our company. I think the role of community in dismantling stigma is huge. And there are so many ways that we can do that. So there is advocacy and policy change, there is promoting, as I've discussed, empowerment, there's fostering inclusivity, there's celebrating our achievements, there's building a supportive network, there's challenging stereotypes, and there's education and awareness. So there are many things that we can do that are within our control, but coping with stigmatization and people that are grappling with stigmatization, well, they face both tangible and intangible sort of repercussions, which, as we've talked about, are these societal judgments. So overcoming this challenge requires, as we've talked about, resilience, self-discovery, and evolving societal attitudes and understanding coping strategies is crucial, as perspectives on stigmatization are diverse and they impact on our mental health and our mental well-being. So there's a lovely mental illness stigma it's a global issue. There's a 2016 report on stigma, and it concluded there is no country, society, or culture where people with mental illness have the same societal value as people without mental illness. So stigma. So yes, just I don't know. I guess what we can do is empower and foster an inclusive environment and, believe in each other and that we can, eradicate and dismantle stigmatization.
Thank you, Katrina. And trust me, all of us are truly enjoying this conversation with you. We are very comfortable having this conversation with you. And everybody is opening up, trying to opening up. This is beautiful. And honestly, we would like to have a conversation with you one more time. And
Yes,
because your expertise, the way you connect with individuals, it's
yes.
really helpful for many, many, many lives here who are joining us. So thank you, Katrina, so much for taking out and trusting us, considering this option. We are truly humbled to have you on board.
And I am truly humbled that you've had me in, and thank you so much. And I would love to come back and talk, and anything you feel that you would like to discuss further, then I'd be honored to do so.
Thank you so much, Petrina. And honestly, if you go back to all the conversation in the chat box, 50% of them is question, 50% of them is like they're praising you and they're loving the session. So
Oh, that is
honestly,
so kind. I'm so touched by that. Thank you very, very much.
so thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you
Goodbye.
so much. Take care. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody. It was wonderful to meet you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm gonna go.
Take-
Thank you so much. Should I go?
yes, please. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.